Growing up in our tight-knit neighborhood, I was used to the gentle greetings of familiar faces, people I'd known for years. Mr. Malik, our next-door neighbor, was always friendly, yet reserved. I'd often see him at the mailbox or working in his garden, always with a polite nod. I knew he had a son, Samir, who I assumed was just a little boy running around in their backyard. But then I learned Samir was no longer the kid I remembered. The Malik family had moved out temporarily for a few years because of Mr. Malik's work assignment abroad. I'd almost forgotten about them until one summer day when I saw a figure moving around next door, and suddenly it felt like someone was watching me. Looking up, I saw a young man glancing my way from the Malik's house. Startled, I hesitated before offering a smile. He nodded in return, his face unreadable but intense. Was that Samir? He was taller, with a more mature build, and his gaze held a weight I hadn't expected. I shook my head, slightly embarrassed at my own curiosity, and returned to my task, pretending not to notice the way he kept glancing over. A few days later, fate arranged an unexpected meeting. I'd locked myself out of my own house. Just as I was trying to figure out what to do, the door of the Malik house opened, and there he was, holding his own set of keys. "You are right there?" he asked, a half smile tugging at his lips. "Not really," I laughed, feeling awkward. "Locked myself out and my family's not home." He nodded. "You could come over to ours if you like, at least until you can get in." I hesitated, but his friendly demeanor eased my discomfort, so I agreed. As we walked into his house, I couldn't shake off the surreal feeling of being there after so many years. Everything looked so familiar, yet so different. "So, I didn't realize you'd grown up so much," I blurted, trying to break the silence. He chuckled softly. "I guess it's been a while. Last time I saw you, you were what, a teenager?" "Yeah," I replied, blushing slightly. "But you were, well, a kid." He smiled, and there was a glimmer of something in his eyes that made my heart beat a little faster. Things change. The way he looked at me then felt both thrilling and unsettling. The air was thick with an unspoken tension that was hard to ignore, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to. We sat in the living room, and he offered me a glass of water, which I accepted gratefully. As we spoke, I found myself forgetting all about my locked door. We shared stories about our childhoods, his time abroad, and how he felt coming back to his old neighborhood. As the afternoon wore on, I noticed our conversation had shifted from casual to something more charged. He'd lean a little closer, his voice lower, his words more deliberate, almost as if testing boundaries. My stomach fluttered, and I fought the urge to back away, afraid of what I was feeling. Just when I thought the day couldn't get any stranger, the power suddenly went out. I jumped, startled by the darkness. Samir laughed softly, reaching out instinctively to touch my shoulder in reassurance. "It's okay," he said, his voice calming. "The power goes out sometimes. I think there's a flashlight in the kitchen." I followed him, our path dimly lit by the streetlight outside, which cast shadows that felt oddly intimate. Once we reached the kitchen, he rummaged through a drawer and found a flashlight, its beam illuminating his face in the half-darkness. His features seemed sharper, his gaze more intense. Our eyes met, and suddenly I felt completely exposed. There was a moment of silence. We both stood still, caught in an invisible web of mutual awareness. I felt my pulse quicken as he looked at me, his expression softening. "Do you remember?" he began, his voice barely a whisper, "the time we played hide and seek in your yard? You caught me hiding in that old treehouse?" I smiled at the memory. "I remember. You were upset I found you so easily." His laugh was low, almost as if sharing a secret. "You always did have a way of sneaking up on me." For a moment, neither of us said anything, the silence stretching on, full of something I couldn't quite name. Then, almost instinctively, I took a step closer. Samir's gaze flickered to my lips, and for a heartbeat I thought he might kiss me. But he pulled back, his face conflicted. We probably shouldn't, my breath caught. I wanted to agree, to brush it off and laugh like it was nothing. But something kept me rooted in place. Why not? He let out a shaky breath. Because I've wanted to be near you for so long, and now that you're here. He trailed off, his voice filled with an honesty that shook me. Before I could respond, he gently took my hand, his fingers brushing against mine, sending a thrill up my arm. I felt my heart pounding, a mix of fear and exhilaration. Every voice in my head warned me to step away, to break this spell, but I didn't move. The sound of keys jangling outside broke the silence, and I quickly stepped back,